Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to play with Marlene's new cut and paste book. This is her collage paper. It's a little bit thicker than her normal ones. The colors are beautiful, the images are stunning. I really like the paperweight of it as well. And I really wanted to play with it. So I found these three girls in the book and I found some butterflies, and we will see what I can do with that. So I'm starting off with sky and I'm putting 3 patches of sky. This is mermaid. I wanted to make a little bit of a greeny bluey background because my girls are all purple and orange, so I wanted to have a nice contrast there. And then I've gone in with Breeze. I really like Breeze. Now after the March Color Challenge, we used Breeze one day and I never used Breeze before. And since then I found that I really, really like it. And this is Kermit. So I normally don't work with greens. They make me uncomfortable. But I really like the way this page turned out. I think this is one of my favorite backgrounds I've ever done. Partly, I think, because of the stencil. So this is a new stencil that it's not new, but it's new to me. And I thought I would take it for a spin on this page. So I'm doing my normal reductive stenciling technique where I put some paint down with my finger and I pop the stencil over the top, and then I'm wiping that paint away with a wet baby wipe. I am looking for contrast, so you'll see the Kermit I put over the top of the sky paint. And now the sky paint I'm putting over the top of like the Breeze, the Kermit, the lighter colors, because I really want that contrast so that they show up well. This was mermaid, and again I'm looking for patches that's not mermaid already. And I am lining up my stencil to the previous bit of stenciling that I did, just to make it not too messy. And now the last bit I'm going in with the Breeze again, and I'm just doing normal stenciling with a makeup sponge through the stencil. And then I'm going in with some mark making. I'm just using the tip of my brush, putting it into the paint, and then pushing that brush down onto my page to make these little, I guess, square looking things. I'm going to do that with all of the colors. And this just brings a little bit more interest, and also where the colors of the stenciling end, I'm adding that mark making. So it's kind of extending that color, and it's also making sure that there's not a very harsh line where the stenciling ends, if that makes any sense at all. I hope I said that right. Now I'm going in with the Grungy Textures stamp. I'm going in with this tiny square one, and I'm going to do a little bit of embossing. So I grabbed out my light blue, I think it's part of the fluorescent range, Wow embossing powder, and I'm using the Wow embossing ink pad, and I'm just stamping here and there. I think I did 5 patches. So normally when I work, it would be 3 or 5 patches, always an odd number, because the eye just likes that better. And I'm going to pop my embossing powder over the top. And when I'm done shaking off the page, I'm also going in with just a soft brush to make sure that I don't have any embossing powder where I don't want them. Pouring that embossing powder back into the jar, and this is where the magic happens. So in the end, you can't really see the embossing powder or the bits that I did, but it doesn't matter. I enjoyed the process. When I rub my hand over the page, I can still feel those embossed bits. So I just really like the process. It doesn't bother me whether you can see it or not in the end. And I am giving my stamps a good dry wipe off after using the embossing ink. I went in with another, this is like a crosshatchy looking texture. I went in with blue, but that didn't really come up, so I switched over to a green ink and that worked much better. And I'm going in with that beautiful scripty stamp as well, and I'm doing that in black, so that adds a little bit of grunge into the background. So now I decided that I've got no white on this page as per usual. So I'm just doing my normal stenciling technique again, where I'm just adding some white space. I find that this is the easiest way for me to add white space back into a page after I've completely gotten rid of every inch of white. And then just extending those stencily bits with a little bit of mark making as well. And I really like the way that that turned out. Okay, going to give it a quick dry, and then I'm going to move on to fussy cutting these girls. And by the magic of editing, you didn't have to watch me. The butterflies I'm going to cut in half, and they are going to have little fairy wings. So cute. So I'm just positioning the fairy wings onto their backs. This one, I decided that I didn't like, it's not that I don't like the butterfly, it was just not the right one for this girl. So I found a butterfly that's from like a side view. So you see the front and the back wings from the side. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there you go. She worked better for me that way. And I'm just shuffling them around a bit to find the right spot for them. And then I decided that they needed to be grounded. I don't like things floating about on my page. I always ground my figures. And so I went into Marlene's Paper Elements book and grabbed these scallopy bits. Couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to do, but eventually I got there. I always also went into my little scrap box to see if I could find anything in there. And I did, but I don't think I used it in the end. So it was another scallopy bit, which I just cut in half so I could have two pieces to spread through the length of the page. And I also didn't love that. So I grabbed this border stamp from the Grungy Textures stamp set, and I put it on my stamp block, which is too small because I couldn't find the bigger one. But never mind, we got there in the end. And I made that little border, and then I decided, okay, I'm just going to stick the girls down, and then I will work with what I have, because otherwise I'm just going to be faffing forever. So plonk them down. I am varying the heights of them, and the middle one actually I pushed quite a bit down, so I had to just trim her dress at the bottom. And then I'm going back into the book to see if I can find something that's going to work. I thought maybe flowers would work, but then I decided against it. So I found another one of these blue scallopy bits, and I glued that down. So now you've got the scallopy bits behind them from the stamp, and then the blue one in the front. So it's already looking a bit better, a little bit more layered. And then I grabbed this stamp set. It's got a tiny little leafy frond that I use all the time. I love this little stamp so much. I'd be devastated if I ever had to lose it. And I just stamped out a couple of those leafy fronds, and I'm just going to color the centers of them in white, so you can see that they are there. It just adds a little bit of texture, interest. It just makes things not so bland, I guess. And now I'm going to go in with my Stabilo All Pen. So I'm just doing one side and like the bottom of some of the bottom side of some of the areas. And I'm just going to take my time and blend that Stabilo All Pencil out so it looks like a natural shadow behind there. So a lot of times I see people just making a line and water activating it, which is fine. But I still think that it's a little bit too harsh. So I like to blend out that shadow a bit more. Going around just the sides and underneath the wings. So not around the whole thing. I think that would end up being a little bit too dark. And once I'm happy with that, I just want to trace around some of the edges of my girls. So not the whole thing, but just here and there. So where I can see Marlene's black lines, I'm adding more black lines over the top of that. Because printing, you're never going to get a true black, I like to add that blackness back in and just define them a bit. I'm going around the edges of the hair. I'm going into the eyebrows and the eyelashes to just make them stand out a little bit more. And it really does make a difference to do that. I think it's a step that's worth doing. And then when I'm done with the black, I'm going to go in with a little bit of white highlights as well. And I also decided to go around the scallopy edge at the bottom there. It just made it look a little bit more finished. And I'm going to add some white spots back into the hair and on the butterfly wings, into their dresses. And that really does make much of a difference, which I loved. Okay, into the sticky quote book, and I'm going to grab some quotes from my book. I found some of the turquoisey ones, and I thought that these girls looked like little mystical foresty creatures that just spread kindness and love. And I thought that they would each have a slogan. So one says, stand tall, the other one's be kind, and the other one is love more. And I felt like they just spread love throughout the forest and the world. And then the quote says, shake the world in a gentle way. And I thought that they also looked quite gentle. There we go. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'll chat to you again soon. Bye.